social media. Excellent.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome. This is the May 19, 2025 Parks and Environment Committee of Manhattan Community Board 7. I'm Daria and this is Natasha. We're the co-chairs of this committee, so welcome all. Before we get any further, I wanted to make a motion to adopt the agenda. Do I need a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Any abstentions? Any? Motion passed and the agenda is adopted, and we also have a quorum. This evening we have 3 presentations and 1 resolution. I wanted to welcome our colleagues from the Transportation Committee. Welcome. You guys are joining us tonight for the Lincoln Center presentation, so welcome all. The first, let's see, yeah. So as always, we ask that everyone hold your questions until the end of the presentations. This is just out of courtesy to the presenters, and this way we can make the meeting more efficient. We can get through a lot of the questions, so don't worry, we will get to everyone and have your questions and comments be heard. So first up on our agenda is a presentation related to Lincoln Center West project, and Natasha will go ahead and present it.
Hi everyone. So the first item on the agenda, which is joined with the Transportation Committee, is about the park and performance space around Lincoln Center. Lincoln Center's west side. So who is here to present the, hi. Would you like to come join us? Sure. Yeah.
This is
Sure. Do you need more chairs at the table? Excuse me. You can start.
Dramatic stuff.
So sorry.
Yeah, good.
Should we start?
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Okay, great. We'll introduce ourselves first, and
Yes.
then we'll start. I'm Leah Johnson, and I am the Executive Vice President and Chief Communications, Marketing, and Advocacy Officer at Lincoln Center. And thank you for having us.
I'm Darren Robertson. I'm the Senior Vice President for Operations for Lincoln Center and the Project Executive for the West Project.
I'm Natasha, the Director of Planning and Design at Lincoln Center for the West Project. And we have a couple parks, DOT, and then another person here as well.
I'm Juanita Servo. I lead government community relations at Lincoln Center.
Adele Bernstein, I'm Senior Project Manager at Caputo.
David Green, I'm the Director of Strategic Initiatives at DOT's Manhattan Partners.
And we have one more person for Lincoln Center. I'm Maria Ethel, the community programs and agency manager.
Are those already? Okay. Actually, there was one announcement that I forgot to make at the very top of the meeting. For tech reasons, totally out of our control, tonight's meeting is not being live streamed. So if anybody's registered as a panelist or a member of the public, they will be able to attend tonight's meeting virtually, but it is not being live streamed, but it will be uploaded in its entirety for people to watch later on. And we do apologize for that. Go ahead. Sorry.
So I will begin the presentation. This is about a very, very exciting project going on at Lincoln Center. And let's go through the first slide. So just to give you a little bit of an orientation, what we're talking about is the Lincoln Center campus. So you'll see the you'll see the little blue area on the left and then the larger area outlined on the right. So that is where we're talking about. And let me give you a little bit of a neighborhood context. If you were a bird flying above from the river to Central Park, you would see a lot of green, not enough green at Damrosch Park, but we're working on that, and I'll talk to you about that later. But this is the area, the context of the area, lots of parks right around Lincoln Center. Let's go to the next slide. And also transit, very, very accessible. As you probably know, Lincoln Center has lots of trains and buses and also accessible bike paths also. And the goal, we started this project quite some time ago, and these are the vision. This is the vision and the goals that we set out, really 5. First is to really create a world-class performance park and to really bring down the barriers along Amsterdam Avenue. And we'll get into the pictures of the wall that separates Lincoln Center from everything west of us, Amsterdam houses and everything west. And really, the goal was to create a green space, a community park for all of our neighbors and all of the city. And 2 other things, to really think about the public memory of San Juan Hill, the community that was raised in order to make way for Lincoln Center and Fordham and other housing, and also to really respect the architecture and landscape architecture that exists on our very iconic campus. Let's go to the next slide. We started in June of 2023, actually started a planning process in 2022, but in June of 23 started a participatory planning process. You can see here, we mapped our stakeholders, really giving priority to NYCHA, Amsterdam Houses, Addition, Lincoln Square Neighborhood Center, high schools close by, and then also really to the west and the east of us, thinking about who we're going to reach out to first, and then we broadened it really to the entire city. Started the process, as I said, in June of 2023, had workshops, interviews, focus groups, 2 large surveys, and really got well over 3,000 inputs from survey respondents. We also had over 500 workshop participants and really about over 6,000 touch points. So these are things that really continued all the way through to this point that we're at now. Some of the quotes you'll see, a lot of things, these activities and the way that we were engaged in the community, our design team was present for all of this. So really taking in what people were saying, wanted modern band shell, wanted more green space, wanted to have public restrooms, wanted so many of the different comments that we heard were all incorporated into the design that you will see today. I want to spend a few moments on historic context, really thinking about San Juan Hill. Much of how we thought about San Juan Hill is uncovering that there was such a rich and vibrant cultural community. San Juan Hill, the jazz, the bebop, the 9 jazz clubs around, productions that went to Broadway. So many from Thelonious Monk, James P. Johnson. If you know the Charleston, you will know that James P. Johnson was the composer of the song that we associate with the Charleston. He was right in San Juan Hill, working and composing in San Juan Hill. Thelonious Monk, a huge jazz artist, also living in the Phipps houses for many, many years. So those are things that we really wanted to make sure that we understood as we were taking on this project, and also that we share this information with members of the community. As you're very familiar with the urban renewal plan, Robert Moses and team displaced 7,000 families and 800 businesses, and that's the area that was the scope back in 1956. And you'll see the modernist architecture here. You'll see that the iconic campus of Lincoln Center was built in a way to really have a balance and avoid the lots of very clean lines And as you'll see here, depicted in all different parts of Lincoln Center. And as you'll see here, thinking of a unified campus composition, as we were thinking of this project that focuses on the western edge and Damrosch Park, really thinking about the entire campus and making sure that we are respecting these character defining aspects of the campus. And then obviously the performance park, really a modernist performance park, really the architects, Eggers and Higgins, were really thinking about Dan Kiley and the spirit of Dan Kiley. So those are the elements that really went into the thinking as we were working with our design team. And the campus has evolved over time, as you see from aerial shots back in 2006 and 2023. Lots of different changes to the campus. Let's go to the next slide. And the last slide that I'm going to address is the inadequacy of the band shell as it exists today. So back in 1969, really designed for orchestral performances and so forth, we have not used, since the 70s, we have not been using that band shell. We have had to build out from that band shell so that every year we have to spend a lot of money to build, as you might recall, Midsummer Night's Swing, to build out for an adequate stage. And also underneath, we really have very inadequate dressing rooms, no air conditioning for our artists and so forth. So those are, I'm going to hand it over to.
Great, thank you. So we're going to start to talk a little bit about the problem that we're seeking to solve and then get into the design. And this sort of shot from across the street at the corner of 62nd Street and Amsterdam Avenue sort of highlights the problem at its starkest, which is this wall that was intentionally built to separate Lincoln Center from the neighborhood, most notably from our closest residential neighbors right across the street. And what's also behind this wall is a band shell, as Leah said, that's been inadequate in its use, in its function. We have been building a temporary stage in front of it since the 70s. We've been building the same version of the same temporary stage since at least the mid-80s. As you probably know, all of our programming in the summer is free to the public. And since 2020, it's always been low cost, but since 2020, it's all been free to the public. And another detriment is that it takes us 4 weeks to build and load in the stage, which precludes the public from using the park entirely during that period of time in the spring and the fall each year, which has never been an ideal situation. So as we started to go through a planning process, we were thinking about if the goal of taking down the wall also has some other elements that might allow us to actually create a better park that has more public use while still serving its intended purpose, which is as a performance park. So this is the existing campus site plan, the extent of Damrosch Park, which is a city park, and Lincoln Center and the Parks Department have had a management agreement since the park was built in the 1960s, where Lincoln Center is obligated and responsible for the maintenance, operation, and upkeep of the park, of course, in partnership with our colleagues at Parks. So this is the proposed plan. It's a fairly dramatic change. We're going to show some renderings, images to help you understand it a little better. But the key thing to understand is that in the early planning phases of this project, we looked at different ways the park could be configured. And what unlocked this was the idea of actually flipping the two parts of the park. So to the west is sort of the recreational park-like part of the park. And it's easy to point out that today Damrosch Park is actually not very park-like, other than one very small bosk of trees that are not very easy to access. And it moves the performance part of the park further to the east, closer to the campus, which makes sense. And then on this shot, we're looking at an elevation looking at the campus on Amsterdam Avenue, and you can see that we meant it, we are actually taking the wall down for the entire span of Damrosch Park. Now, we can't take the wall down the entire super block because we can't knock down the Metropolitan Opera House or the New York Public Library for the Performing Arts. I don't think anyone wants us to do that. But we are addressing a streetscape improvement to tie together the entire super block and create a much more welcoming area. So another one of our partners on this project is the New York City Public Library and the Public Library for the Performing Arts branch at Lincoln Center. And as you can tell, this has never been a particularly welcoming entrance. In fact, most people don't know the library has an entrance on Amsterdam, but also from our plaza. We also note that this is a highly trafficked area by all the students, our student neighbors. There are six public schools in the MLK complex across the street. There is LaGuardia High School, and then there's our own student populations School of American Ballet and Juilliard School. If you spent any time in this area between 2:30 and 3:30 on an afternoon, it's completely populated by students who today mostly just sit on the concrete paving because there's nowhere for anyone to be. And we're proposing to make some changes to that. So this is meant to be a fairly simple intervention at the corner of 65th and Amsterdam to add a sort of artistic element to the building, create something that just creates some interest and drama, creating a more generous staircase and seating area. And then we're talking about some other improvements up at the terrace level with some seating and better lighting and things that are still in very early stages. And we're working with the public library, both central branch and the local branch on what that might look like. We're also talking to the library about improving their actual entrance, their doors and storefront entrance in a way that would make that just easier to see, more inviting, and more visible from the street. Next slide. Another big part of this is the streetscape scope, and we've been talking to our partners at DOT about this. And what this involves is a widening of the sidewalk. Today, that lane is a no standing, no parking lane for the entire span of the super block. And other than the Metropolitan Opera's loading dock, which we don't want to disrupt because we don't want to cause cascading chaos in the neighborhood, our proposal is to widen the sidewalk to create a much more generous pedestrian sidewalk, which will create depth for street tree planting, a greening of the landscape on the whole super block, benches, wayfinding signage, and other elements that would match what already exists on 65th Street, which had a major improvement in the early 2000s, as many of you may know. And Amsterdam and 62nd have sort of been a no person's land without any attention, poor lighting, and things like that. So that would be part of that. We're also talking about bumping out the corners to create shorter pedestrian crossing distances. I know that DOT has pursued that around the city, and we'd be doing that here. Next slide. So back to Damrosch Park, next slide. There are a number of site constraints that make this a complicated project. We are attempting to build a better park on the roof of a building because the entirety of Damrosch Park sits on top of the underground parking garage on structure. And so that's one of the challenges. There's also a really complicated grade change on Amsterdam Avenue in two directions. So the idea of taking the wall down is not as simple as we might have initially thought. And there's a number of parking entrances and other things that we want to maintain and not cause too much disruption. So I think I talked about this earlier. The planning phase unlocked this idea of if we're going to try and not have only the wall go away, but this idea that the performance park actually also turns its back on Amsterdam Avenue. And could we flip the two elements and create another key element, which is a better simultaneous use of the park. So today, because the band shell is on the furthest western part of the park, for our performances, our security perimeter requires the entire park to be closed for all public performances. So the idea was also if we could create a theater space closer to the east side, could the public still, at least in most cases, be able to enjoy the public area of the park even without coming into a performance. So we would argue, since all of our performances are free, you can come in if you want, but if you don't want to, you can also choose to stay outside and still be in the park. So we looked at, this shows you a highlight of 4 of the 15 stage orientations that our acousticians and architects studied, and we landed on this southeast orientation. One of our other desires is to not make any noise or sound bleed from the park worse by moving the stage. And so ideally, you might have considered facing it directly west, but we wouldn't want to then cause a problem with sound bleed. So just so you know, last summer during our public performances, we had sound monitoring set up, and we have an acoustic model that's informed that this is the best location. Another issue, as you can imagine, is we're dealing, as a bunch of folks running an outdoor performance venue in the summer, we're dealing with rising heat, and we lost more performances to heat than rain last summer for the first time. So a big part of this design, if we're talking about the next 100 years and beyond, is what do we do to introduce more shade and other factors that would mitigate the effects of rising temperatures. So in Damrosch Park, I'll just go quickly from west to east. So you can see the sidewalk improvements by the widened sidewalk and creating sort of a new front door and plaza on the, inspired in the same way by the grand entrance most people are familiar with on Columbus Avenue to Lincoln Center. The Amsterdam Garden is a series of sort of step terraces that bring people into the park. Today, the first place you can enter Damrosch Park from Amsterdam Avenue is essentially where the cursor is, almost all the way to the Coke Theater. In the new park, you will be able to walk off the sidewalk at grade directly into the park at Amsterdam Avenue. There's a series of accessible pathways and staircases that bring folks up to the next level, where there's a lawn, a series of trees, and a large water feature. We heard a lot from the community about water and about a desire to have water as both a cooling element, something that children can interact with. We'll talk about that more when we see some renderings. A series of groves that mimic the groves that work very successfully for us on Hearst Plaza. Another observation we have is that at Lincoln Center in the summer, Hearst Plaza is an extremely vibrant, well-used, populated space by people both going to shows and those who have no interest in going to our shows, and we're happy to have them equally. And Damrosch Park, on some days, our traffic studies reveal that other than people walking through the park, some days our total count of people in the park is less than 20. And so we're taking some cues from what worked well in Hearst Plaza. Notably, these are occupiable groves that you can go into and be under trees, which is obviously something that we would all probably enjoy more of in New York. The plaza is similar to what exists today. It's a different configuration. It is putting the last row of the audience much closer to the stage, so better sight lines, better acoustics. There is a tiered seating overlook area at the back that also has a great sort of public purpose when we're not in performances during the other seasons, as sort of a trellised shaded area. We'll show you some renderings of that. And then notably a stage that is in the same size as the temporary stage that we build every summer, but it's permanent. And this removes the need to build a temporary stage. This stage is meant to accommodate all of the public performances we do today, orchestral and classical music, film, popular music, salsa, dance, anything that we can imagine could be accommodated on the stage. Of course, the stage, the dressing rooms, all of the spaces will be accessible. Today they are not. Today, if we have an artist who requires any kind of mobility device, we have to temporarily build a dressing room off to the side of the temporary stage, because the dressing rooms, all the facilities in the current band shell are not accessible because there's no elevator. This will put an elevator that will take you down to a level below in the garage where the dressing rooms and green rooms and back of house spaces will be. You may also know when we operate the park in the summer today, we build a series of tents and trailers that take up a huge area of the park. It is less than aesthetically pleasing, as you can imagine. And so the goal is also to put as much of that down below as we can. And then just to finish up, a series of groves and a deck that can be used for pre and post show events and be where people can get a beverage or a concession, public restrooms that will also be available during non-performance times, which is an improvement over the current park, water fountains and bottle fillers, things that don't exist in the park today. There is an old school payphone in the park today. That's about the only amenity that's there. Someone's going to claim that, I'm sure. And then this idea of this walk alongside the Met, and we just, we haven't. It's just an idea, but we've noticed that this walk, it's a mimic of the old. It is a mimic of 63rd Street, and the line of 63rd Street that did continue through the campus before the urban renewal project in the 1950s. And it's on axis with Thelonious Monk's Circle in Amsterdam houses to our west. So our design team has been thinking about how perhaps there's a commemoration of Thelonious Monk and other artists who had either a home or a place of work in this neighborhood before Lincoln Center was here. Next slide. Next, we can just cut through some of these. This is the performance venue itself. Public restrooms you can see that are accessible from outside of the theater building for the public to use, up an accessible ramp, and then below all of that back of house support space that we were talking about that today is unair conditioned and unaccessible. This shows you a little bit in section if you're looking at 62nd Street. Again, the current band shell today, which is part and parcel with the wall. You can see on the bottom drawing how we resolve that very complicated grade through a series of ramps and staircases and accessible pathways to get people up to the grade. And we do have to reorganize some parking on the west side of the parking garage in that first level in order to get the clearance we need for the new space. Next slide. This is a rendering of what this might look like on 62nd Street. We are cognizant of not building a new wall on 62nd Street while getting rid of the one in Amsterdam. So the design team has been thinking a lot about how this might match. You know, we're proposing a pretty big departure from what exists today at Lincoln Center, but our design team is also very committed to how it speaks in the same architectural language of Lincoln Center, and the idea of how this takes cues and matches some of the other iconic architecture, the travertine, the stone, the fins of the Met Opera, and how this might make sense just with a lot more green and a lot more trees. These are some slides we've prepared for our presentation to the Public Design Commission of how the spaces might be used. We're going to move through these. We have a lot of slides, so we're happy to go back or answer questions. A big one here is accessibility. The current park is inaccessible from Amsterdam Avenue and most of 62nd Street. There is only one accessible pathway in. The planters and groves are not accessible, and the bandshell and building is not accessible. The new park obviously makes every effort to be accessible in its entirety. Obviously, with the exception of a couple places where there are stairs, but we are working obviously through the design with our parks partners to create the most accessible venue. We're getting a lot of questions about what will happen during performances. As you can see here, this is that idea that the security perimeter, this sort of more compact geometry of the theater allows us to imagine a scenario where the event security perimeter is limited just to the east side, and the public could still easily be in the west side of the park and maybe enjoying or watching or experiencing a performance from that lawn or from one of the other groves. Keep going. That's the current, oh yes, Shreya was right, because this is the big reveal, so she didn't want me to go too fast. This is what it looks like today. This is the wall. This is a good problem. This is a number of people queuing for a free performance at Summer for the City. Notably, also they're out in the heat, there's no shade. And so how would we actually resolve this and what would it look like? And this is the proposed. The wall is gone. There is a green streetscape. There is a series of terraces and gardens, seating areas that bring people up. There's an accessible pathway right through the center that takes you into the park. Notably, there's a bus stop there that's heavily used, particularly by our neighbors across the street, that today has no shade whatsoever. So this will make life better for everyone waiting there as well. This image kind of illustrates Damrosch Park and its current state. And if we go to the next, this is the water feature and the lawn in the distance, and just imagining what this could be like looking west from basically that same exact vantage point. Next slide. The idea of this water feature is that it's a low skim of water, and there's a series of mist or jets. I mean, obviously this is all still in design. We're taking some inspiration from some other fountains we've seen both around the city and around the world. Notably, this will be the only fountain at Lincoln Center you won't get in trouble for going into. So that's something we're looking forward to. And this is looking again towards the west alongside the Metropolitan Opera House. As you can see, the existing conditions are in a state of 60 years of use and are in need of remediation anyway. This is one of those groves. This is very similar to what we have on Hearst Plaza, and it's very successful. Again, this is looking west from the main seating area, which has really no utility during the rest of the year. Next slide. And this is what that plaza would be like in its future version. And as you can see, the greenery and the trellis, which give us a lot of utility during performances, also have a great, we hope, public civic use as a plaza during the rest of the year that people can actually enjoy. And this is what it might look like during a performance. And, you know, notably, the idea of, instead of the bandshell being, you know, way across the park in this remote location, centering it closer to the campus and to the other performance venues, and having it make sense in the context of the plazas and the other parts of Lincoln Center. And as you can see, this is our image of folks in the other parts of the park able to be there and still enjoying whatever they were doing while the show is going on and sort of participating in it. It could be a great new New York scene that doesn't exist anywhere else. And this is what it would look like with, 1,800 to 2,000 people in the space, which is a slightly less, but around what we do today. We set up for 2,400 seats. Our average capacity is around that sweet spot of about 1,800. But the seating is very flexible and we'll probably do different configurations over time. Last couple of slides. Of course, a lot of attention to what this would look like from the campus itself and from the main plaza. So, the idea of a theater in the park or a theater emerging out of the park, it makes more sense, I think, in the context of the rest of the campus, and as an invitation from both sides. I mean, our goal was to create an invitation from the west, but it's also important that there's an invitation from the plaza. If you come to one of our performances today, we're always taken or amused by the number of our security staff who say that their most common question during the summer, even though we're doing 300 free public performances, is in this area right here getting asked, where is Damrosch Park? This is right there. And this is sort of an aerial view from across the street and what it might look like. Next slide. Is that the last slide? That's the last real slide. These are some other slides we have for our friends at the Public Design Commission, who are going to need to start talking about what kind of trees we're selecting, stone finishes, and building materials, and all of these things. This one might be interesting, which is just the schedule. So we've been, as Leah said, Leah and her team have been driving this public engagement process for over a year at this point. We've been designing in parallel, working with that feedback. Our design team themselves have participated in a lot of focus groups with neighbors, preservationists, disability and access advocates. And we have an environmental review process and a public design review process that we are in right now, or just beginning. And assuming that all goes well, we would be in construction essentially a year from today. And we have a very ambitious goal of finishing in 2 years. And that's not an accident. The reason for that goal is we want to be open in time for Summer for the City 2028. We are endeavoring to deprive the public of Damrosch Park for no more than 2 summers. And we believe that's achievable. And the last note, because we'll get the question, the anticipated project budget is $335 million. If those of you who saw the article today, we have raised over 65% of that goal already with the announcement today. Mostly through private sources, support from the city, support from the state, and a very generous board. And that's our presentation. Leah, unless anything else.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So we're going to handle the questions in a slightly unusual manner. Normally we go through the board first, but because in the same spirit of community outreach, we will go to the community first in the room, then anybody from the community who's on the Zoom, and then we will come back to our community board members. And one more piece of housekeeping, if you guys could share the file with us, that would be helpful. Thank you. So is there anybody in the room from the public who would like to ask a question? Oh, yeah. Yeah, if you could stand up forward.
Yes, you do.
Yeah, please do.
Okay. Well, let me say first, I'm just so excited. I'm a lifelong resident of the community. I grew up in Amsterdam houses and then moved 3 blocks away to West End and 65th Street as a young adult. So getting to and from the train station all through middle school, I was coming through Lincoln Center. I really am so excited by the features, which I learned more about more deeply in this presentation. My question is whether or not there's going to be any promotional material on the Amsterdam side, such as I see on 65th Street and along Broadway. And I'm really hoping that the answer to that is yes, that there will be an effort to not only sell what Lincoln Center is offering on the Amsterdam side, but also to encourage those who are living in NYCHA, the youngins living in NYCHA, to think about careers in the arts and careers that support the arts at Lincoln Center. Because if you think about it, there are so many careers that support the arts also and support the performances. And I think we need to think in terms of tapping some of the talent that will be coming out of the NYCHA projects in terms of careers for children and exposing them to it and helping them to imagine themselves in those positions.
Yes, yes. And the answer is
Yes, and yes.
A couple of things that and thank you so much for the questions. One is we actually have a project that's going on right now. So those blades that you see on 65th Street and what you see sort of in the front of sort of the panels along Broadway and Columbus, we are now involved in a project to upgrade all of that, and we will now include Amsterdam in that. So there will be and there are certain things that we cannot do. So you can't have something on the sidewalk that will distract traffic.
Got it.
So you can't have moving lights and things like that, but on the other side you can. But so we will work with our colleagues at the DOT on that, but certainly advertising in that way. But also we have a very robust, led by Eleni and Mariana, very robust community relations program to really, number one, build these relationships so that people do feel that once this park opens up, that it belongs to all of us. And so there's a connection. So we're working on that. As far as jobs go, we are working, as we did with David Geffen Hall, we had a very robust workforce development program. We will do the same thing here. Local participation, very, very important to us. And also understanding sort of job fairs and different things so that young people do understand that yes, there are jobs on our stages, but there are lots of different jobs that happen before you even get there. So we will work on those and devise those. We already have Kwame Onwachi, who is the chef at Tatiana.
Yes.
And he's already very involved with building a program for the culinary arts with our neighbors at Amsterdam Houses and so forth. So we're thinking of lots of different ways to come at this. And we're very, very dedicated to it. So that's the short answer.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else in the room from the public who would like to ask a question or offer feedback? Is there anybody on the Zoom who has? Oh, yes, go ahead. Please come forward. Yes, yeah.
Hello, Chair and community board members. My name is Wanda, but you can call me Wonderful Wanda. And I am a NYCHA resident at Amsterdam Houses, and I'm here to express support for the project. I love the arts. And when my mother moved us, I immigrated from Dominican Republic to the Bronx and then finally to Manhattan so she can give us access to the arts. I love Lincoln Center. And so every summer, single mother, she would just take us to those events. And I absolutely loved it. And I didn't know that Damrosch Park was public access. I just someplace that I would go in the summer and then nothing else. But now I have a baby and I want more of Lincoln Center. And so I'm excited for that project. So vote yes. Thank you. And I don't have questions because I participated in the surveys and I submitted all my questions and suggestions, and I'm so happy to see them, that they pull them into this wonderful new design. So vote yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming. Best of luck. Anybody else in the room? Oh, yes. Go ahead.
You may please come on up.
Yeah.
Our microphones are up here, so.
My name is Genevieve Vera. I'm the secretary for the Amsterdam Houses Tenants Association, speaking on behalf of Ms. Yvette Powell, the president of the Amsterdam Houses Tenants Association. I'm here to express support for the Lincoln Center West Initiative. For far too long, the dividing wall has been residents of Amsterdam Houses' primary view of Lincoln Center, and its removal serves as a powerful symbol of the institution's commitment to breaking down barriers with our community. This transformation not only responds to the evolving intergenerational needs of our residents, but also promises deeper connection and opportunity. We are excited to continue this work and strengthen our partnership with Lincoln Center to create engaging, lively spaces for our community and their exposure to the arts. I encourage the community board to pass a resolution in support of this project. Good job.
Thank you.
All right.
Good evening. My name is Marlene Williamson. I live and I work in Community Board 7. I work for the New York Society for Ethical Culture. And most of the programs and services I bring over to Amsterdam Houses. And so I'm really, really excited on a professional, personal level to see what's going on. It's been such an offensive eyesore to have the wall there. And I know that everyone, you may think that you know, but unless you are a resident, that you've seen this for decades and not been welcomed, and now to see the transformation, it's absolutely amazing, absolutely amazing. So I hope that whatever needs to be done as far as passing resolutions, I hope that that does happen. And thank you.
I second that.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Anybody else in the room? Oh.
Careful.
Hello, everybody. My name is Kathy Matos, and I'm Vice President to Amsterdam Edition Association. I'm speaking on behalf of Ms. Patricia Rye, the President of Amsterdam Edition, the Tennis Patrol Association. I am here to express my support for Lincoln Center West Side facility, and residents advocate for children, for seniors, citizens in Amsterdam Edition. We are excited by the new design, which is responsible to request important needs of our community. We are engaged to build up partnership with Lincoln Center, and the space comes to life away from that service. Everyone is uplifted. For the residents of Amsterdam Edition, I encourage the community board to pass this resolution in support of this project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
You're welcome.
Anybody else in the room from the public who would like to speak? Anybody here? Yeah, we see, no, okay. We see Doug's hand up. We'll come back to you, Doug. Now I'll move on to the community board, and I will move on to the transportation committee first. Anybody from your committee who has, yes.
Yeah, so thanks, everyone, thank you, to Lincoln Center and all the stakeholders who are here. This is fantastic. I think It's been great to hear from members of the community who have spoken already. It just is really, I think, going to be such an improvement. I had one transportation related question and one sort of overall question. On the transportation side, given that you're expecting hopefully more people coming through, are there any changes to the sort of transportation mass transit patterns, the M11 or just subways in terms of traffic flow and people coming in and out based on these new renovations? That's my first question.
We don't anticipate a major change in any of the patterns. As you said, I think our biggest hope is that, I mean, obviously, hundreds of thousands of people traverse Lincoln Center both to come to events and just use the space and pass through the space, but notably avoid Damrosch Park. So I think we hope more people will use Damrosch Park in the context of the rest of the campus. We already do the heaviest volume of uses during our performances, so that will continue. And we're not proposing any changes to any of the other transportation. I mentioned the bus stop of the northbound on Amsterdam Avenue, but that's obviously not going to be changed or impacted other than hopefully there's a better place for people to wait.
And this
we
may
talked
be
to
a
DOT about
DOT question about the widening of the sidewalk, but is that going to impact? I know there have been several fatalities along that corridor in recent years. Is the broadening of the sidewalk going to impact the traffic flow, I guess, along Amsterdam in any way, or hopefully, I don't know if DOT's here to answer that. Or...
So the Lincoln Center team are working through the analysis to support that, and as we speak, we don't anticipate there being an issue to Amsterdam Avenue. And to your observation about safety improvements, you know, the benefit of one of the benefits of widening the sidewalk is that the crosswalks are then reduced.
Yeah, I noticed the crosswalk.
So pedestrians have less exposure and shorter crossing distance, which is one of the multiple benefits. So the team is working through that scenario. As I said, the full extension, there is an alternative in the event that we are unable to remove that parking lane from Amsterdam Avenue. It is possible to retain it and still widen the sidewalk by 5 feet, because the existing parking lane is 13 feet wide. It only really needs to be 8 feet. So even in a worst case scenario, there's still a possibility of widening the sidewalk by 5 feet, which is still meaningful.
And then just two quick ones. So you mentioned that it's a public performance space. Are there private events that are held there, or will there be? And do you foresee that being something where it's definitely much more open, but will that space ultimately be closed for more than often than not private events that won't allow members of the community to access it?
So Lincoln Center can hold rental events on its public plazas, and the terms of our agreement with parks sort of spell out how we can do that. And notably, there's a reason, which is that the revenue from those events go directly towards offsetting the cost of maintaining the public areas. So Lincoln Center is responsible for the entire management of the public areas, which includes Damrosch Park, the garages, and the plazas. And Lincoln Center and the resident arts organizations are responsible for almost all of the operation and maintenance costs. The revenue from the parking at Lincoln Center and the revenue from events is used to offset those expenses. As you can imagine, it's not even close to a break-even scenario. So
no real changes.
But we will still likely do some private events. We'll probably use the plaza for that purpose. I think that you will see us focusing on trying to keep as much of the park open as much of the time as we can.
No, again, that's great. And then just a quick one. A lot of us sat around this table a decade ago or more so when the trees went in. Are those trees going to be gone, or are they staying? The trees that are, I guess, in the east part of the east of the current band shell, like way east. And
the boss.
60, yeah, the Bosphorus.
Yeah, so no, because to do the project, the whole thing has to go down to the subsurface. Also notably, as I mentioned, that is the roof of a building, and that is the original waterproofing from 1962, which has failed.
Right.
And so both asbestos mitigation, waterproofing, expansion joints all have to be done.
Okay, so I know that the Friends of Damrosch Park was.
Yeah, so
also
we're looking at what options there might be to potentially preserve some of the trees or potentially relocate them.
Understood.
It's in the list. I will say two other things on trees. There will be substantially more trees in the final park than exist in the current park. And obviously, we'll be working with parks because we'll be paying tree restitution for any of the trees that we remove. So that goes into obviously.
Understood. No, it looks great. Thank you. That was it.
Actually, just a minute, Andrew. I apologize, but there seem to be 3 people from the public who had questions.
Sorry.
And we weren't aware of them until right now, so maybe we could call on them one by one.
Yeah, the first person we're gonna call on is Guillermo Cedillo. The second person is Israel Ballet, and the third is going to be Kiana. So Guillermo, if you're available, can you unmute yourself?
Hello. Hi, everybody. Good evening. Can you all hear me?
Yeah, perfectly. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you for having me, Chair and Community Board members. My name is Guillermo Cedillo, and I am the Director of Community Engagement and Partnership for Goddard Riverside for their West Side program. So on behalf of Goddard Riverside, I'm here to express the support for the Lincoln Center West project. Being at the center of the development of Amsterdam housing, this is just as, you know, and being a shared partner in the redevelopment of the Upper West Side, we celebrate Lincoln Center effort into engaging the community and its needs. This direction provides increased opportunities, not for just the community, but for the community to engage with residents and vice versa. And it's really good for like the surrounding neighborhood. And it's just exciting to see the possibilities of what could come from just embracing this community that, as was said earlier, it has history of being San Juan, and to be, you know, welcomed back into a place of like, you know, just being a whole community instead of being divided. It's amazing. So I encourage the community board, you know, to really pass a resolution in support of this project, and let's bring this community together. Thank you.
Thank
you.
Thank you. Israel? Are you available?
Yeah, go ahead. I think you're on mute, Israel.
It looks like he's unmuted. Yep.
I think he may have dropped off.
No, he's.
Oh, no, he's there.
We can, want to come back? We can come back.
Yeah.
Why don't we come back and go have Kiana Glanton be unmuted to give comments or questions.
Go ahead, Tiana. You may unmute and speak. Tiana Glanton, we can't hear you. I think you're still muted. Okay. Let's go back to Israel. I think Israel has unmuted. Israel, if you're there, you can speak.
Good afternoon. Hello, this is Kiana. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I apologize. I am a blind individual and member of the community, and this feature has not been accessible, which leads me to the privilege of being here with you community members today. As a member of the disability space and a neighbor of Lincoln Center, hey, friends and family, I understand the importance of inclusivity. Art is supposed to be created, consumed, and enjoyed by everyone, regardless of their ability. And there are spaces in our community that are just inaccessible. They're hard to get around. We have guide dogs and canes, and we still want to participate, be seen, and be part of this conversation. I'm privileged to have been a voice within this process of sharing the experiences from our community that cannot see the changes and the landscapes and the textures, but that feel them and utilize them every day, even to get around, to get off the train, to trail our canes around the building, to find our various spaces and offices, homes, meetup spots, bus stations, trains. And so thinking of a design that includes our community such that entrances, bathrooms, seating, cooling, texture on the ground are considered for our community is essential. A lot of spaces are often retrofitted to include us, but being a part of the process from the beginning, from the inception, from the focus groups to the team building and being included in the step-by-step process, being called back, not just heard one time, but really being included has been incredible. It's a testament to what Lincoln Center's goal is at this time and giving respect to the community that is there, regardless of ability or income. I'm really privileged to speak on behalf of Lighthouse Guild, who's a neighbor, and the disability community. It is really important that this project goes forward because it represents not just a feel-good moment or righting wrongs or inclusivity, but all of those things and the possibility and potentiality of community really coming together. So I thank you for hearing me and ask that when you have these meetings, you consider those in the disability space. This was really hard to get onto, but I'm really glad to have been given this possibility and this potential and this opportunity to share this space. So thank you and good luck, Lincoln Center. I really hope to see this come to fruition. And I use see and I mean it as in feel and experience, but really I'm excited for what is possible. Thank you.
Thank you.
very much.
Thank you.
The last person is Israel Vale. Go ahead, Israel.
Me? Oh, oh my God. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, we
Perfect,
can.
Thank you.
Okay, okay, because I barely hear, you know what, I'm sorry about, but you know what, I'm just gonna be really quick, and my name is Israel Valley. I'm a tenant and a member of the Amsterdam Houses Tenants Association. I just wanted to express my support, not only for Lincoln Center, but for the community board that has worked with the Amsterdam Houses, which is where I live. This is definitely a very needed investment in our neighborhood, not only because of the arts, because of the area Lincoln Center, but also because of us back here. That wall kept us kind of apart in a way. I'm a music and art graduate. I always loved the arts and music, and I just want to make sure that I know that we're not going to be excluded from anything that you've done. You've invited us to your meetings. A lot of people have shown interest here, and I hope that the Amsterdam Houses can help you better serve and get this project going. So I just wanted to let you know that I hope that you do whatever you can to pass any resolutions to get this project on its go. And I'm happy about the wall, by the way. Okay, so I hope you heard me.
We did.
Yeah.
Thank you. We're happy to.
Okay, no, you guys are wonderful, and especially Mariana and Eleni, they come out here and they're encouraging everybody to, you know, which is great. They didn't have to do much for me, but I mean, because I've always been active. But anyway, stay safe and thank you again.
Thank you. I think now we'll go back to Andrew here in the room.
Thank you. This really looks terrific, and as you can hear, everybody seems very supportive. Everyone's going to be thrilled to see that wall go away, and Lincoln Center face both east, west, north, and south. So my question is, now that we're going to get much better circulation through the entire landscape there, will there be any signage directing people to the various attractions in the center, like Coach Hall, the library, the subway, you know, just directions to help people get through the new landscape?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. And when I was answering Leonette's question, yes, there are, we have a project now dealing exactly with that. So, because people don't know where they're going when they're on campus. So, and that will include the west side. So yes, the answer is yes.
And the signage will be from both sides to
From
guide
both sides,
people
the
around.
entire, exactly,
Fabulous, thank
the
you.
entire campus. You're welcome.
We've taken note of the fact that there's a pedestrian corridor at 63rd Street, what used to be 63rd Street, that most people who live in the neighborhood know you can use to get through Lincoln Center to the southbound 1 train, especially when it's raining. And there is not a sign there that says subway this way.
No.
There's actually, the only sign that's there is a sign that says do not enter for the traffic. So that has been sort of one of the most like telling moments of how far off we've been from actually telling people we're supposed to use the space.
That's great news,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody from Parks who has a question? Go ahead.
Sure, so I can't vote on this because I worked on it previously, but never got to see any of this proposal, so very exciting to see it come to fruition. Just a few questions that I don't know if it'll be helpful to have the site plan, but the bathrooms, can you enter them from down in the plaza, or is it like above that you enter from?
The restrooms, you want to bring the site plan up really quick? The restrooms are on the outside of the theater building. They're just, they're in the plaza. They're just 4 feet off the plaza level because they're up at the basically stage level, but there is an accessible pathway
down there
from the plaza. So that's the restrooms there. That's the pathway from the plaza.
Okay, and then there's 2 other quick ones. Is any of that space like passive recreation space where you could like lay with a blanket, or is it all a lot of hard space? And then my last question is about like where concessions are envisioned to be, and are they going to be like all summer long or just during performances?
So that's the main purpose of the lawn, which is that whole area there. Obviously on the site plan, it doesn't look huge compared to everything else, but it's pretty large, right? We're talking about the span of this whole space. That is on par with sort of the usable area of the other lawn that exists on the other side, and the fountain on the other side of the campus. And then just to highlight, those groves they're all sort of a gravel surface. So the hardscape is limited really to the plazas itself. And then sorry, there was part 2 of your question I didn't answer.
Oh, concessions, where are they envisioned?
Yeah, I think they'll probably be fairly flexible. We're not trying to build another like permanent food establishment. They're hard enough to operate. And as you know, a lot of kiosk type food things in the parks are a challenge to keep operating. So if you just highlight on the plan, this area, sort of in that restroom area, will probably be the most common concession area, which is just outside of the performance zone. But we have a food and beverage program we started in Lincoln Center after the pandemic, in partnership with Restaurant Associates, our partner. We have a food and beverage department that we created, and we've been curating a series throughout the whole summer of local, mostly minority and women-owned business ventures that rotate in and off the campus. So someone full-time on our staff who is dedicated to identifying talented people who want to use the campus, food trucks, carts, and things like that.
It's really good.
We will build, it's really good. It's very, it's good for all of us who have to work there every night. And, but we will build in a lot of infrastructure because we've also learned that a lot of small vendors, the hardest challenge is them coming and getting set up. And if we have some infrastructure for them to just pop in and use it, will be the goal.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody? Yeah.
Really just a comment. You guys, this is amazing. It's much more than I ever envisioned. It's fantastic. I attended one of the workshops. I was lucky enough to have a conversation with the architect. And I discussed with him then about that band show, which I thought was really turns his back on Amsterdam houses. And I begged him to take it down. I'm glad that other people wanted it to be down too, and that it's coming down. I think that's really fantastic. One little question, what's the stage material made out of? And is that stage impervious to the elements? It's open, right, all the time?
No, the stage has a roof over it. It's actually covered.
Okay.
So unlike the temporary stage that we built today, the stage, if we go to one of the renderings, the stage itself, the whole thing is a trellis that in some parts is sort of permeable, but over the main part of the stage, that has a roof. And so it is protected from the elements.
Does it close off in any way, or could people go up there?
It doesn't close off. It doesn't close off. And one thing we've been talking about is potentially how could it be configured you know, so that the stage itself could also be something people could use during the off season. We haven't figured that out yet, but it's one of the things we're looking at.
That's great.
Anybody else? Doug, are you gonna go to?
Yeah, well, I was trying
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
talk to, take questions from the room first, and I know Doug has his hand raised. Yes, go ahead.
One quick question. I don't know if you gotten to this stage yet, but love to see all of the green space and the foliage and the trees, providing a really nice canopy for those below. But wondering if you're intending to use native plantings, for the trees to support the local, ecology as well.
Yes, the answer is yes. We haven't exactly picked plantings, but the planting character is going to be similar to the highline. Restoring and all of that.
And some of the current trees are actually not
Right,
native.
yes.
So, yes.
Right, that wasn't a consideration back
It was
then,
not.
but it's great to see
Our
that it is
landscape
now.
architect is very, very focused on it.
Well, easier to take care of as well. Yes.
I just want to thank you for your very thoughtful analysis of the current situation and your plans for the future. As a member of the community, we feel so lucky.
Yeah.
Just a quick one. I had a whole list of questions. You've answered them all, so thank you. Except for, is Big Apple Circus still around, or are they?
Yeah.
Will they be part of?
So
this
we've been talking to
configuration?
them, Obviously, this would impact them because it's a different type of park and it's different use of the park. But we've been in conversation with them. They got a little confidential preview of this a few days ago. So we've been talking to the current ownership of the circus. And they've got to think about how this either would work for them or not, or, and you know, we'll say we're in conversation. They will be back. They will be the final thing in the park before we start construction. So we'll be back this winter into January, February of 2026, because the project will start after they wrap up. And we'll keep talking.
Thank you.
Yeah.
When do you anticipate the start of construction? What's your best estimate?
Around a year from now, so April, May of 26. Yeah,
thank you.
So the circus would be loaded out by March, and we would start work as soon as we have all of our approvals.
An estimated time of construction for everything is
2 years.
2 years.
All right, did you have a question? I think Doug had a question online. Go ahead, Doug.
Hi, sorry I couldn't be there. I'm a few thousand miles away at the moment. But I was privileged to attend a few sort of advanced meetings. I think Barbara was there with us as well, and we've had some subsequent meetings. So I just wanted to just say that I am so much in support of this, and I think that not only are you doing a good thing, you're doing the right thing. And, you know, this is going back to, I'm just going to call them the atrocities that Robert Moses did. Not that he did everything bad, but that's excluding Lincoln Center. But obviously, the displacement of San Juan Hill, which is so moving, had the privilege of attending the screening of San Juan Hill, which I think is really wonderful. I think everybody should see it. And I just want to say that, you know, it's about time, right? That Amsterdam houses and the west side of Lincoln Center is not facing the rump of Lincoln Center anymore, and it won't. And it's going to be inclusive. We need this more than ever at this time. And I remember participating in some of the focus groups and asking the questions, and the Lincoln Center team was ahead of it. They answered the questions that I personally asked were, have you reached out to the direct descendants of San Juan Hill? Have you reached out to Amsterdam houses? Have you reached out to the community-based organizations, to the Business Improvement District, to the community board? The answer to all of these was yes, emphatically. And many, many focus groups were done. So I'm just, you know, so much in support of this. We are so lucky to have a world-class campus like this in our district. It's, you know, and I just love all the details that are happening that have been incorporated from the many conversations, and knowing that Chef Kwame is going to be involved. And I had the privilege of meeting her recently, and just told them how excited I am. So, and by the way, just quick public service, I heard the comments of Kiana and Israel, and Kiana, we will try to work to get things more accessible. I was not aware that that was challenging for people to get onto our meetings. So we'll work on that. In Israel, I am an alumni of the High School of Music and Art. Anyway, full-throated support for this. Bravo, brava. And yeah, if we have a vote, I'll be emphatically yes. Thank you.
Daria, did you have any questions?
Yes, just a couple. My son went to the Gateway School, which is on 61st Street between West End and Amsterdam. And my other son's gonna go to West End Secondary, is also on 61st Street. So we walked across Damrosch Park for years from the subway, and then there's a huge distance when you kind of reach the end and cross that street. And it's, you know, we take the same bus home on 62nd. So for me, and I think the entire community, including the schools and everybody else, this is such a welcome change. It's visually welcoming, which I think is really important. And we're very excited to see this happen. Just a couple of quick questions. What happens, do you have any plans for converting the space into something different in the fall or winter or spring? Like the water features, the band, or anything else that you can think of you can share with us today?
Sure. You're talking about sort of the future use in the other seasons? Yeah, I think, you know, so our summer festival in its current form, obviously it'll change over the next 60 years in ways we can't imagine, I'm sure, but its current form, you know, is in the park basically from June till early August, and the bulk of our summer programming takes place then. I think this park will give us the ability to potentially extend that by virtue of not having to load in and build it and load it out and take it away, and probably expands that season a bit. And so either Lincoln Center or the existing resident or organizations on the campus may be able to add or do programming. It'll also be an easier lift for other arts organizations that come in for shorter residencies to use the space. And then, you know, we'll think about what the park looks like in the winter and how it's activated in the winter. If the Big Apple Circus is able to make a scenario work and wants to be back there, that's one great way it would be used in the winter. But certainly the reason the plaza is still a flat plaza in front of the theater and the seating is flexible so that there are potentially other uses. So, you know, we've done things during the COVID pandemic. We did a winter light festival. We thought about other ways to just activate the campus throughout the year. So I think more to come on that.
Lots of talk about a winter light festival.
Yeah, people like lights. But more on that, you know, as we go. I mean, the biggest thing is to put in the infrastructure to be able to do all of it. Today,
Right.
that doesn't exist. There's virtually no power in the park.
Right.
There's no water. There's no, you know, it's all of it is loaded in at great expense.
How about, you talked about the walkway, which is going to be a tribute to Thelonious Monk. Is there anything else in the park that you can speak to that would be a tribute to former San Juan Hill? Are you anticipating putting anything else besides that walkway? What have you discussed?
We've already been in discussion with our landscape architect, who happens to be an artist as well. Of the different ways that we can do that. How can we, whether it's putting lyrics of songs into, you know, steps, whatever it might be.
Wonderful.
But really thinking about, there's a tower, and is there an opportunity to have some kind of video of, you know, so a lot of the thinking is really centered on San Juan Hill, and bring that. So the coming together of San Juan Hill and then the future, and how can we bring that together? So lots of discussion. We don't know yet, but lots of discussion about that.
And then the final question is, your timeline is 2 years. Do you anticipate anything, or foresee anything that could possibly move it or extend it in any capacity? Or do you feel
we have blinders on?
There are about 6 million things in the world that can slow down a complicated infrastructure project like this one.
2 years
But
is great.
we have reconstituted the best of the team who did David Geffen Hall on time and on budget only 3 years ago.
Okay.
And so we don't want to be overly confident or bleed into arrogance, but we have a good deal of confidence that we can do projects on time and on budget because we just did a really complicated one. And a lot of the same, it's a different team of architects, but a lot of the other disciplines and consultants and team that are involved, and including some of the Lincoln Center staff, were all involved in the David Denham Hall project.
And the staging of the construction, is it gonna all be specific to Damrosch Park? Is it gonna bleed out into any other areas?
It'll be, the construction perimeter will be around the park. Obviously, you know, we'll do normal things around sidewalks and pedestrian passageways, but we'll try to not impact the rest of the campus. We're still gonna do a Summer for the City Festival during the 2 years that Damrosch is not in service, but we'll focus on Josie Robertson Plaza and Hearst Plaza. So there's a careful choreography on the campus. We also don't want to interrupt performances in the other venues. But again, this is something that our construction manager and our team are pretty expert at because they've done it on the prior projects.
Thank you so much.
Thank
It was a wonderful presentation.
Thank you. I just have a couple of questions. And maybe you already went over it, but could you talk more about sound mitigation? You know, for the neighboring residents, schools, everybody.
And also for the Metropolitan Opera House too,
Yeah.
because it's now facing
Sure.
directly there.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you what we know so far, which is that in anticipation of the project, last summer, we set up monitoring during our performances and collected a lot of data on how sound moves and travels in the space currently. That was used to create a model. This is not dissimilar to what's been done in other projects like this. Our acoustician, who have done other projects at Lincoln Center over the decades, sort of one of the world-class acousticians who works in all the major concert halls, they informed this design. The model reveals that this is the most favorable for the residences across the street along 62nd Street. There's a couple of other things happening. This is now a permanent stage with an actual roof and walls. Today, the sound we're amplifying is going out through temporary structures that don't have roof and walls, so it'll help contain it. The performance area is shorter from front to back and more condensed, and so we think the amount of amplification required will be less. And then the last piece is there is a lot of evolution in speaker technology that will help with steering and managing sound. So again, it's not you know, we are still doing outdoor performances, which is tricky in New York City. We are vigilant about a 9:59:59 cutoff for the sound ordinance. And we do this right now today, and we think we maintain a pretty good harmony with most of our neighbors. So we'll keep working on it. Metropolitan Opera, obviously, all the resident organizations are very aware of this plan. They've all seen it. We've been talking to them, and we'll probably be doing some things to help mitigate the sound directly at the Met as part of the project. We also did acoustic studies inside the Coke Theater at the Met Opera. So one thing we can say we do know is even at its peak of amplification, this venue wouldn't affect the performances in either inside the auditorium of either of those buildings.
So before we wrap up, I just had a request for your team. If you could come back later on before construction begins to provide us with an update on staging, like how that is going to affect the community, traffic, whatever. And also if you have more information about sound mitigation, because I know right now there's so much unanimous support from everybody, every single facet of the community, but it would be a shame if like people can't go to sleep at night because now the stage is facing, you know, Amsterdam. So if you could give us either in person or even like in some sort of an email update, these two things. So I'm without going into it too much, I want to echo all the positive things that have been said, either by members of the community or members of the board. This is a fabulous project, and I really must congratulate you on all the community outreach that you have done. It's very rare that it was so important. Thank you so much. And with that, I think we will, I don't have a resolution ready, even in draft form right now, but I think from everything that we've seen here tonight, the resolution is going to reflect all that. And if we could take a vote to approve this presentation as presented tonight. Before we do that, I just want to know who is here from your committee? Because it's the
Alex.
I'm
Alex.
on both.
He's on
so-
both.
Okay, your votes. Okay.
And Doug.
Okay, Doug. All right.
I don't know if there's anyone else online, but I think it's just Doug.
All right, so should we just take a committee vote like together, of both the
Together.
committees?
Together.
Yeah, okay. And then we'll do a not. All right. All right, everybody on both committees, transportation and parks and environment, in favor of this project as presented today, please raise your hand. Anybody voting against? Anybody abstaining? Anybody not voting for cause? All right. Okay, and non-committee members voting in favor, good. I don't think there's any non-committee member online. Okay, so I'm just going to do so. The resolution carries unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm leaving materials for summer for the city,
Thank
starts
you.
June 11th.
All right.
And legacy the
Great.
7th.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I wasn't gonna say that, but it doesn't-
Can I see the summer? Thank you.
All right, so moving on, our next item.
Can I get a better seat?
Sure.
Do you want us to the table?
Yes, please. Yeah.
I didn't think. I put something to say.
Oh, they're gonna look here.
What?
Yeah.
Wherever you want.
Yeah, this is the art. Did she leave?
She did.
Okay.
Which one? Is this, very nice.
Congratulations, logged off.
This is a show and tell.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Oh, wow. So next up, we have,
Yes, yes, yes.
on our agenda, the art installations in Riverside Park. I'd like to welcome folks from NYC Parks, the Conservancy, hi.
Hello.
And our artists and folks from the Art Students League. They will be giving a presentation on upcoming temporary art installations in Riverside Park. If you have a presentation to bring up, you can go ahead and do it now. Oh, this one is in, this is, right, got it. Can you see it, or?
I think we gave it to Alex.
Alex, yeah,
Which-
Alex, is there a presentation?
Yeah,
you up?
which presentation is first?
Montana.
Okay.
Montana.
Oh, I'm clearing the wrong side. I'm trying to get the viewers online to be able to see.
To be able to see it?
Oh, and I was like clearing the wrong side.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know if we can move this closer.
I promise I'll put it all back.
Oh, there you go.
I'll just start off with a brief introduction. I'm Elizabeth Masella. I'm the Senior Public Art Coordinator at NYC Parks. I oversee the Art in the Parks program, which permits temporary public art projects in parks citywide. Those projects are on view for up to a year. You may have seen our most recent installation on Broadway Malls by Carl Diavia, which is on view now. Tonight, we're here to share some information about our longstanding program with the Art Students League going back to 2011 in Riverside Park South. It was formerly Model to Monument, now known as Works in Public. And for the last few years, it's now become a dual exhibition between Riverside Park South, 2 locations there, and 2 locations in Riverside Park at 145th Street. There are 2 sculptures on view now. If you haven't seen them, these artworks will be replacing those come the fall. We work in close partnership with the Riverside Park Conservancy. Whitney, I don't know if you want to just say a few words, and then we'll turn it over to the artists.
Yeah, I'm Whitney Dearden. I'm the Director of Public Programming at the Riverside Park Conservancy. I run Summer on the Hudson, which is our summer event festival. There are brochures for that on the shelf outside. Please take one. But I'm here basically to answer any Riverside Park specific questions about the installations that happen, as well as public programming that is scheduled around the sculptures.
I guess we have Tom Tasic also from the Art Students League. I don't know if you want to talk about the program. It's a really neat program where the cohort gets a lot of really hands-on skills and goes through a real, bringing the maquettes that you'll see here to large-scale sculpture.
Yeah, hi, thank you. Thank you, Whitney and Elizabeth. Not going to talk much because I want the artists to do all the talking, but the Art Students League of New York is really proud of this program, and so pleased with our partnership with Parks, and just delighted to be able to offer the public the opportunity to engage with large-scale works of sculpture. The Works in Public program is a professional development program where advanced sculpture students are selected to develop concepts, basically from models to full-scale installations. And so Jason and Montana are now in the 2nd year of this program. It's a 2-year program, and they are entering the fabrication stage of their projects. And so Montana is here to present her sculpture.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Should I sit so that people can see me speaking on the video?
Please, and also it'll be closer to the microphone.
Oh. Thanks for having me. It is a really great program. The way that Tom described it felt really accurate as a participant, and it's like just an incredible opportunity to be able to think through public space as a New Yorker and as a mover of space and thinker of space, maker. The presentation above here shows models that I've been working on for 1.5 years. The concept behind this piece, which is called Sound Weir, is to create enclosed spaces, semi-enclosed spaces where New Yorkers can find a moment of solace, but also have their experience transformed. And the piece is designed for the sounds of the city, the park, and the river to mix together, bounce off of each other, and have sort of a miasmic experience as you walk through this somewhat interactive, but also just calm and contemplative piece. Controlling the presentation.
Alex is.
Go ahead. Thank you. So a little bit about me. These are some previous works that I made in the last couple of years. I'm a 5th generation New Yorker. I'm also French. My dad is French. But yeah, I go back 5 women in my family. I make sculpture that builds new ways of seeing place and time. The weir concept is actually a ancestral Lenape fishing technology that was actually used in the rivers around Manhattan, what is now Manhattan, and Long Island. And it's an amazing sustainable practice where fish were gathered into successively smaller pools. So part of the design of this piece also reflects these enclosures and references this amazing sustainable technology that is part of the landscape of New York. I use raw materials and industrial supplies in my work. I think it helps us better understand our built environment, and also just it's rock and roll. I mean, our city is rough and it's industrial, and these are the materials that, you know, we live around and that we get to manipulate to better understand the poetry of being a New Yorker. And I'm also really excited to present this at scale to the public because it activates something so different than the experience of seeing a work one-on-one, which is so important. Here, it creates a collective experience. And I think that's really powerful and honestly rare because we're so often siloed since the pandemic and through the architecture of the city. So any opportunity to create collectivity and consciousness of the community is really meaningful to me. Next slide, please. Basically covered everything already. Continue to present my interest in changing the way that we think about the space around us and our place within it. Next, please. Again, here's an image of a weir. They're also used they've been found in all island, coastal communities all over the world, which is a really cool aspect as well. Next slide, please. These are some of the only examples that we have of Lenape pottery that was unearthed on the island of Manhattan. And in my research on the remnants of these communities that existed before this land was really claimed and developed, I found these. And I thought they were somehow reminiscent of the piece that I had then built. So I continued with this finishing, this coloring as feeling encouraged by these remnants, which are again the only remaining artifacts from that community. So there's a visual connection there. Next slide. This is a view of the originally proposed model at scale. It was a little bit extended a little bit further, so you can see sort of the composition and the poetry of the piece as I originally conceived it. But of course, we have to adapt to our environments and our budgets. And this is the result based on the available groundwork, what we could attach to underneath the park and the framework of the opportunity. Just a little bit more visual context in situ. The height is 8 feet, the width is 15 feet. So I'm 6 feet tall. I feel like 8 feet is what you need to really feel
In something.
powered over. Yeah, slightly larger than life, but not like a large friend. Not scary. Next slide, please. Here's a visual of the connection points to the base groundwork, just to give you an idea of how solid it'll be. And we have engineers, engineering consultants reviewing the stability of the work. All of this, all these trappings will be underground. Next slide, please. Another view. We just got feedback from the fabricators that this is going to be very doable. So this is what it'll look like. Next slide, please. So any concerns about public safety and maintenance are addressed here. The surface will be patinaed, which is sort of a metal treatment through abrasion and chemical treatment to give it the color result. It also makes it more resistant and to other effects, the weather, things like that. And it also sort of hides any damage that might happen to it. It's a variegated surface, so it still looks beautiful even as it weathers its existence in public. It'll also be sealed with a clear lacquer that makes it very easy to scrape off, wipe off any graffiti that might happen. In terms of public safety, there was a concern that there might be hiding spots that people could get up to no good behind or make little messes in. And we've enlarged the holes, as you might have noticed from the original, to be able to account for that and make sure that there was a visibility throughout the piece for about 75% of the possible viewing areas. So someone would only be able to hide, if you were going around the piece, someone would only be able to be hidden from your view for a quarter of that time, if that makes sense. If you were walking around, you would inevitably see that person. No one's hidden for very long. The steel will not get too hot in the summer. It's not climbable. The material will be 3/8 of an inch to a half inch thick, and they will be dull so that they can't harm or cut you. I don't know if anybody thinks of anything else. And anyone, like, please bring it up, because we are really trying to make it really fun and safe. I mean, we believe that we've made it really fun and safe. Next slide, please. This is the last slide, I promise. This part I'm actually really excited about. I come from a music background. I've only been making sculpture for 5, 6, 7 years, depending on how you count it. Before that, I was in bands playing all over the world, a band named Bodega, believe it or not, very New York. And my community is still very much experimental musicians. So I'm excited to activate them through contact miking, composing for the piece, interacting with the residents of the steel, and then bringing these creative sound-based explorations through education to high schools in the area and after school groups to invite youth to come record their interactions with the works. And I'd like to have an online publication, probably just a Spotify playlist, but where these professional musicians show the wacky sounds they've made, or compositions or beautiful music or whatever it is, in tandem with the sounds that the students will have made. And so they will sort of in a way have the published music in collaboration with some really great artists, which I would have been so excited about as a kid. And then also, I don't know if you can tell, I really love thinking through strange spatial dynamics, and what fun would it be to be able to come into the park and think about your environment in a sculptural way. And so I'm hoping to host the same type of explorations around the piece as a visual artist, and invite youth groups to come in and sort of have interpretive creative days of their own from what they're inspired from, the thought processes that like are inspired from the work.
Thank you. Oh, great. Thank you so much. I was just going to say, if there's anything more about the piece itself,
that's it.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions about this particular piece before we move on to the next installation? Yes.
Just curious about location, where it's going
Oh,
to
I'm
be.
sorry, Riverside Park South.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what street?
68th Street. Yes, 68th Street.
That's where
It's
Henry Newman's is.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a piece there
It's-
now called Ectoplasm. If you've seen it, it has the clear panels.
It's actually this, it's very close to there, but it's just south of there.
Oh, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
you have this
Sorry.
other.
Yes,
Sorry.
That is actually about 61st. Yeah, it's further down.
my bad.
No, it's okay. It's all good. It's hard to tell when you're there, but I
It's
just
where the
wanted to.
Metronome is now.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Okay, 61st. And
Yeah, so south of the locomotive.
is there wind speed? I mean, it depends on the wind, but is there wind speed that's too much for it? Do you think? We're not gonna have any hurricanes. The hurricane season. But you think it's
It
coming?
will be very.
It'll be very
securely-
secure. Okay.
Overly securely
Yeah.
connected to that.
Okay, thank you. Those are my
Thank you.
questions.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah,
We want
we look
to-
forward to it. Did you say, I'm sorry, when it's gonna be installed?
Hopefully late August. Place, oh, there it is.
I guess we have the presentation.
Oh, Alex, do you have the presentation to share? It's Jason McCormick.
Yes.
Perfect.
Excellent.
Go ahead, Jason.
Okay, great. So my name is Jason McCormack. The name of my piece is All One. Thank you all for having us here today. As was stated earlier, this has been a really phenomenal experience. This program is everything that Tom describes and more. So the name of my piece is All One. And the reason why I wanted to make this thing is because I actually wanted to make a it's kind of a tribute to all of us in our individuality, in our shared humanity. It's a celebration of us. Next slide, please. Here you have just a little bit of like the things that I've done before. I'm predominantly a figurative artist, and I use I make pieces out of the love of the figure and to also explore different questions and answers and to have an open dialogue with the viewer while using the figure as a vehicle. Next slide, please. Next slide. There you go. So the piece, all right. So the piece will stand at 8 feet tall on top of a 1 foot tall base. The base is in a triangular configuration. Each side of that base will be 11 feet. And the piece itself from nose to nose is approximately 8 feet wide. Next slide, please. And as we can see here, it is located, as was stated earlier, at Riverside Park South, excuse me, and this is more or less how it looks out in the wilderness. Next slide, please. So this is getting back to like addressing why I wanted to make this thing. Again, it really is just a matter of celebrating us. You know, what is it to be unique, yet irreparably the same? To be an individual, you're part of the whole, right? I really feel like this is the miracle that is us. And I don't think that this is celebrated or acknowledged enough, especially during these divisive times, you know? So as we move on, I'll talk about the different components that I use to actually explore this idea. Next slide, please. So I've used, here we're going to explore the color. I used primary colors, red, yellow, blue. Is a metaphor for, because these colors are used to make all the other colors. And this is just a matter of me saying that we can come together, all of us, to make something more beautiful. Always. Next slide, please. And a theme throughout is the equilateral triangle. The idea here is that the equilateral triangle can be used to make all other shapes. So this is a matter of being able to build anew, limitlessly. And I think that's what we have the potential to do. Next slide, please. And here I also use portraits to make this point. Now, these portraits are of no one and are of everyone. I wanted to make it ambiguous. I want to play with gender. I want to play with ethnicity, while at the same time, you know, I wanted to make it so that people can come in and do the rest of the work themselves. Maybe they'll see themselves, maybe they'll see somebody they know. But again, this is an amalgamation, these faces. And, you know, one is more masculine, more feminine, and the other one is way more ambiguous. But that was my intent with these faces. Next, please. And the rotational aspect of it. Now, again, like these, we have 3 faces in an equilateral triangle configuration. So these 3 faces, I can turn and make a new face. And that's the idea. What I'm saying here is that we are so much the same that we can swap features and still make people, right? I'm also saying, though, that, you know, as you can see, it's separated in thirds, right? The bottom third is the mouth, the middle is the eyes, and the top is the cranium. So in another way, I'm also saying that because this is about the collective, right? It's about shared stories. It's about coming together. I'm saying we need to lend each other our voices, right? And to actually see, share our perspectives. In the top part, cranium, that's a matter of considering sharing one's ideas, thoughts, and experiences. So, you know, I'm just playing just different metaphors and just building on top of that and hoping that, you know, maybe it come through and or ultimately it just look cool because the stripes do look kind of cool. So at the very least, but that's my intent. Next slide, please. So here I address safety. Now, originally, I wanted the public to come out and spin it themselves, but that posed quite a bit of danger. So how we have it set now is that I will do the turning. I will turn this piece at least once every 2 months. And when it's not being turned by myself, it will be locked in a secure position. And literally will have a lock and key. Like I have the key, meaning I can only turn it. And another aspect of the safety is the metal surfaces. So my base is steel. This is going to be painted black with a coat that is UV reflective. So it drops the heat by a lot, considerably, maybe 60 to 80%. This is a typical coating that's used in playgrounds. As you know, many playgrounds have metal parts, and yet we still have kids not burning themselves. It's because of the science in this paint, thankfully. So I'll be using that on my metal base. And it is, and as you can see, there is space around the necks. Like people can perch on it, people can sit on it, and I want that to be the case. Again, like earlier, I wanted people to actually literally touch and interact with it. You know, break that dimension where, you know, art is untouchable and inaccessible. I want to make it as accessible as possible. In this case, people will be able to touch it. They won't be able to turn it, but they can touch it. Next slide, please. Before I get into public programming, I also wanted to address another aspect of the materials used. So the sculptures themselves will be sculpted in concrete, direct concrete, a GFRC concrete, and then painted with an epoxy paint. The epoxy paint serves to be weather resistant, UV reflective, and also because it's out in the nature and we live in a freeze-thaw environment, you're going to have some flex, and epoxy paint does lend itself to having some flex as far as shrink and expansion, as well as the concrete will have the ability to shrink and expand if it needs to. Considering it's outside, the GFRC, which is glass fiber reinforced concrete, allows for some flexibility in a freeze-thaw environment to sustain the you know, its shape and its longevity. Now, here we have my slide where I talk about a bit of public programming. Now, a big part of this thing is a matter of us. I'm exploring how we are all the same yet unique, and that kind of begs for people to share their story. And I'd like this to be representative of an opportunity in a space where that can happen. So I have one of the ideas I have for a program is, what's your story? Who are you? Right? I think it's really imperative that we do more of that. Another thing is the second would be a day in the park. Day in the park is based around, you know, the idea of having kids come out and they can tell their story. They can tell me, or rather talk about what they experienced with the piece. And also I'd be out there and I could turn it however they like me to turn it. And I think that'd be a lot of fun, you know, like I do this because some aspect of me hasn't grown up yet. And I remember what it is to be a child and to see so much creativity in New York City, from graffiti to monuments, and just feel so inspired. I just want to, it'd be cool to have the kids come out and like, hey, I'm still a kid too. So let's have some fun with this thing, let's spin it around and that type of thing, you know, while also having serious conversations and creative conversations. Hangout, that's so, again, as I said earlier, I have to be out here at least 6 times in a year, right? And so it's kind of like, I gotta turn this thing anyway. So come out, hang out with me while I turn the thing, tell me how you want me to turn it. That could be fun too. Again, it's just a matter of more and more engagement and more of breaking the barrier between art being, out of reach and into precious and really getting into the fact that this thing is made for the people, by one of the people. And so that's what Hangout is really about, Is that my last slide? Or is there a next slide?
Yeah, is this?
Oh, that's my.
Okay, great.
Yeah. That's it. Thank you all.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you.
Anybody with any questions? It's
Cool,
perfect, I
sounds
guess.
great.
No.
Thank you. Thank you.
Guys,
Thank you so much for your time.
For sure. Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
They were very thoughtful,
Yeah.
they were very
You have
thoughtful
people
and
be able to swivel this
it
way.
That's the
really
next one.
invites enjoyment.
That'd be
Yeah.
really cool.
I would love that.
Thank
What
you.
if you had like a metal frame around the whole thing where you could just sort of like.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
But you know what I mean, like a.
Totally.
Like a round thing like this,
Totally.
around the
Right.
thing, and you-
So last on our agenda is the West 79th Street Marina and Dockhouse project.
I know.
maybe attach the
So I
roses to it.
wanted to welcome the folks from Riverside Parks, the EDC,
Anyway.
I'm get out of here.
the
Thank you.
engineers and architects from Moffat and Nickel and PSNS to our meeting. And they will be presenting the update, proposed West 79th Street and Dockhouse project. So you feel free to sit anywhere, please.
Yeah.
I think I might have some dish in here, but I think we also have.
Yeah. Yes, we have, online. Stephen French.
Hello.
Maria. Nate Rowe. Michelle Kim is online. We have, Diana's here.
Everybody's welcome to come to the table if they like.
Yes, we have.
Okay. All set, or do you want us, want us to wait?
Go ahead.
Okay, sure. So I appreciate it. Sorry I couldn't be there today. I think the transit strike will allow me to get there tomorrow, but that'll be a little too late. So we're here to give you a readout on where we are on the boat basin project. And I shouldn't take too long, but we'd like to show you where we are. So next slide. We'll not being in the room, it's hard for me to tell which of you, we've shown this to and who we haven't, but we'll look at the timeline, review the marina, because that's still, fundamental aspect of the project. We've definitely reviewed the dockhouse. We have some design updates that Megumi will share with you, and we'll talk about our next steps. Next slide. Okay, so here we are, the middle of 2025. I think the last time we saw you was about 11 months ago when we sat down and had a really successful meeting. I think this is maybe the 8th or the 9th time that we've had an update with you. We've advanced the design. We continue with the permitting effort now. Since we saw you last, we concluded what was the Section 106 process with SHPO. And so we have their concurrence. We also received PDC preliminary approval last time. I think even though if it was a year ago that we saw you, when we were working with SHPO on, on the dockhouse specifically, they wanted some updates, and I think we shared them with you in maybe November, sort of to the facade. Megumi will talk about that in a little bit. So, and we'll talk about next steps at the end. So, next slide. So, it's a big the reason for the dockhouse is the marina, and here is the marina. So if you're not familiar with this image, we've shown it a lot, but you'll recognize the existing marina, you know, in the aerial ghosted in the back. So you can just get a feeling for the size of the marina. So what are we doing? We're expanding the marina to accommodate 1,000+. Kind of stop keeping track of that number, the wait list, because it's just always growing. As you know, the marina is not operable now. We've been working on this since 2019. Looking forward to getting it back in operation. So we're expanding it. We're making the entire facility ADA compliant. We're bringing it up to modern codes. We're putting modern amenities throughout the marina. There'll be in-slip sanitary pump out. There'll be winter water. There'll be potable water. And that sanitary, for the first time in the site's history, is going to be connected to the city infrastructure. So we're plugging this into the city and upgrading it. As far as the marina itself goes, in this footprint, well, around the outside of it, you'll see the red line that represents the wave screen. So this will have a protected wave climate for the first time in the marina's history. And also, as part of the navigation, it'll be dredged to make it navigable. Right now, it's very shallow, very silted in. Sometimes I think the boats, especially near the shore, rest on the bottom in low tides. And so that'll be an important aspect of this as well. The other aspect I think that we haven't touched on before is a human-powered launch. That will be an aspect of this. I think there's still kayak storage in the rotunda. So the marina, we're advancing. And the dockhouse, of course, is here to serve this marina. And we've talked about that a lot in previous presentations. Next slide. So really kind of the thing that changed since we saw you last was some of the facades and the apparent elevation of the dockhouse too, as relates to its height. So Megumi, if you'll go over these things, I'd appreciate it.
Yes, absolutely. So as you can see here, the left image is kind of where you saw it last. The right image is includes our updates, and as you can see, the changes are pretty subtle. We don't even think of them as changes; they're really refinement, further development of the project. This is mostly a discussion with Sheffer as well as PC, and so we've been kind of in the process of refining the details. The biggest the highlights are kind of listed here. We reduced the height of the building by 6 inches without decreasing the kind of lower public space underneath the dockhouse. We adjusted the trim color at the bottom ever so slightly to a darker trim piece so that it would further reduce the appearance of the height of the building. We also adjusted the stainless steel to be a slightly more lower luster material so that it still catches the light, but is a little bit less shiny. We adjusted the diagonals so that they read a little bit less strong, so the expression is a little more subtle, a little more refined. The more subtle, that's hard to see here, but corrugated aluminum on the elevator shaft, and there's one more shaft below the building. We adjusted to a corrugated zinc material, which also is a slightly darker material to, again, help tone down the building. And also simplify the stair railings a little bit. That image will come up a little bit later, so it's a little clearer. Next slide, please. This is just a section of the building that you've seen before, but it illustrates the where we took the height down. Brought the edge of the building down by 6 inches, again, to help reduce the relative appearance of the building, or the height of the building. Next slide, please. This shows kind of an update of some of the materials, and also if you can see at the railing, we sort of simplified the railing reading so that they're just vertical pickets with cable railings, which is more akin to what's happening underneath the dockhouse and along the extent of the dock. So it's kind of, again, simplifying, kind of trying to relate to its surroundings even further. Next slide. And these are just kind of updates to images you've already seen. The view from the promenade. Next slide. A little bit closer up. And as we're developing these renderings, like we're constantly kind of refining and adjusting and making sure that all of the public kind of areas are, friendly and are working for, so we've added people and kind of trying to understand that space underneath the dockhouse even further. Next. We also kind of took more shots of, or looked at the building from the water side. So the previous slide you saw briefly was just kind of from further out from a boater's perspective of the building. Next slide is kind of closer up from the dock side at sunset. So understanding, what the building feels like, kind of when you're on the docks. And then next slide. And then kind of coming back and looking at all the different views in all the different kind of lighting conditions. Again, further refining, making sure that our adjustments and changes to the design still are in keeping, and we think, with kind of the CB7 comments that were made previously, and always keeping those comments in mind as we're kind of making these subtle adjustments to the project. I think that's it. There's some appendix material and
Yeah.
I'll give back to Stephen for next.
Sure. All right, thanks, Megumi. And then, so really our immediate next step is PDC, final approval from PDC that we'd like to seek in a month or something like that, I think, before their summer break. And then we're really focused on what it takes to kind of get this bid and to the start of construction, which is continuing the permitting. We moved from sort of the environmental review permitting, and we get into a construction phase permitting. So it's quite extensive as well. And then we anticipate the start of construction in 2026. The dotted line at the beginning kind of represents there's a moratorium on in-water work, which will affect the nature of what could start first. And so as we get closer to that, we'll have a better idea from, from which piece of construction can start the first. But really the goal is to get through permitting and into construction, complete the design, finish the permitting and get into construction. I think that's it. Next slide is Q&A, and there's some additional material in the deck.
We're gonna go ahead and take questions. Let's do it from the public first to see if anyone has questions from the public here in person or comments. Yes, sir. You could come forward so that the microphones can pick up your speech.
My name's Ethel. I was a little board at Front Basin for 52 years. And we got moved out to Jersey City, where I'm a little board for another 3 years. Don't like the bridge and tunnel crowd. Love it. And if you want to learn about the boat basin, Leslie Day, who was at Liverpool for 35 years, she's just written a book called River, and it's a great read. It's on Amazon, but it's not going to get published till November. But it's a fantastic read, and be great for the community board to get some positive aspects of where we are, because we've had a lot of downgrading. I didn't hear a completion date for construction, but one of those dates we just said. start of construction was 2026.
Ends
Yeah,
2028, actually.
we, yeah, the end depends on the start, of course, but well, we're thinking, 2 years total, all in, from beginning to end.
And, all right, we're unsure where we're going from there. It is going to be open in winter time for liveaboards and wet storage.
Yeah, the marina is designed for, operation year round.
Okay. And are the water lines going to be heat taped or something?
Yeah, the winter water, yeah, the winter water will have heat trace, yes.
And I think mailboxes, somebody addressed that before, I think that's going to be included.
Yeah.
There's the empty area, because we're not going to put all new slips in the first time. I think you already gave me about 36 slips. Is that open area now at the south end of the marina available for something like, there's a sailing company there, they have small boats that are out in the moorings now. If we could get into that area, it'd be a lot easier for me.
Yeah, it'll all be like the concept is definitely to to get to permit and get the marina, the 193 slip marina, and to get the permit that would allow for the dredge of all that. I think you saw it's the last two, is it H and I, would not be procured in construction for the sake of the construction budget right now. And that area to the south may not be dredged at this moment to the south. So if it's, that might limit its navigability. Of course, the park to the, the deeper water section would be. It's already deeper anyway. But depending on funding that's available, we construct as much of that as we can. But the phasing, the permit would allow it. And the phasing currently would anticipate not constructing the floating infrastructure there. The wave screen to the south would be constructed. And the dredge would only occur to allow navigation to the rest of the marina.
Okay. And you're confident the simulations are good for the slips being parallel to the river?
Yeah, I remember the comments. We got a lot of feedback from that early on, and a lot of effort has been put into the wave screen. Maybe what's there now. It's actually a debris screen, right?
Yeah.
I think it's a foot below low water. I think there's a gap of 1.75 inches between the boards. This is a double depth wave screen that'll go down to 10 feet below mean lower low water on both sides. Well, I think that's 10 and 8 actually. So it does a lot of work. We did a kind of a somewhat sophisticated numerical model of the basin with a with and without protection to see that it would offer the kind of quiescence inside that would allow that beam C orientation to work. So I am confident, yes.
Are there two openings in the simulations? Because that's where the waves come plowing in.
Right at the opening, right? And that there's one T-head right there, T-head of a floating dock that's near there, and that's being upsized to further provide attenuation for that area. But the entrance of that wave into the marina is considered, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Did you come up?
Yes. My name is Hal Dorfman, and I still am a permittee. I'm an architect, and I firmly support the progress of this project. I actually take a little responsibility for getting it off the ground because I waited 20 years to get a permit. And when I went out with my brand new boat, it was all silted up at low tide. In March, I realized that my boat would be destroyed in the marina the way it was, and I've been for 10 years in another marina, and I'm waiting for this to be done. I lobbied Elliot Engel's office and got the money from Homeland Security and worked with Nate Grove and also with Linda Rosenthal's office and her staff to get the money from the Economic Development Corporation to get this off the ground. So the only comment I have is let's not let the perfect get in the way of the good, and let's get this done. And let me get my boat back in before I won't be able to have a boat, and I'll be forced to continue living what you call it, tunnel and bridge or whatever it is. And I've been also like that past artist. I'm fourth generation in New York, and I waited a long time to get this slip. And I'd like to be able to use it while I'm still vibrant. So please, whatever you can do, push it along. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Is there anybody else from the public here? We also have one person online who will be, who has a question or comment. It's Gail. Gail, you can unmute yourself.
Okay. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, great. Hi, I'm Gail Dubov. I'm president of the 83rd Street Block Association, a very popular spot to enter Riverside Park. I've heard your concern about serving the marina with this new dockhouse, but my question is, how are you concerning the population that's using the park at this point? I see this design and I think it's a really lovely design, but not for a park. I just don't feel like it's really addressing the natural environment that this building is going to be in, steel and glass and blocking light. And it's, to me, it just isn't soft enough. And I'm asking, is there any way, whether we put a green roof on it with maybe a cafe or a place for people to sit up there and have even better views of the river, or something that is going to soften it with some vegetation, some greenery. I walked through the park yesterday and there's lovely landscaping that's been done by the Parks Department. There's a pollinator area. We could put a wildflower section in, something that's going to soften this so it doesn't look like an industrial park building. And that's what my concern has been from the onset of these designs. It doesn't look like a structure that belongs in a park. What can you do to soften this a bit and integrate it into the surrounding natural area that it is in?
One thing is that we do have a green roof on the roof of the building. The bulk of the roof is green, with the exception of one sort of mechanical well that is indented into the roof so that it's less visible from the surrounding area. So there is a green roof. It's currently not something that can be occupied, however, but there will be a green roof.
But anyone who was down in the park will not see the green roof. And what I'm asking is what could be done to soften the look of this rather industrial building to have it connect more easily with its surrounding natural environment?
I mean, one of the things we've worked really hard to do is, since we brought it here 1 month ago, was to refine the building so that it looked less industrial. That was a comment that we did get from Caputo, and so eliminating kind of the visual of the diagonals was one tool that we used to kind of refine the kind of triangle appearance of the building, which some saw as feeling, more industrial than it needed to be. And so all the details have been very considered, and we think it will be an elegant building. The material is something that will reflect the light and the surrounding kind of environment that it's in. So as you saw with the kind of sunset view, it'll take on kind of the colors of the sky. And same in the morning, it'll sort of appear a little bit more bluish with the kind of sun rising. So we think that it will be, somewhat responsive to the surrounding environment in that way.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Are there any other comments from the public? Comments or questions from the board, the committee? Oh, go ahead.
I tend to agree with what Gail said. I think it's a lovely building, but I would also like to see it looking less industrial. I know you've made some changes from the last presentation we had, but I would have liked to have seen it go further. And also, you said that you toned down the color, but it seems very dark to me now. And the underside especially, I would like to see light, so that light comes in there instead of walking into a dark, thing underneath the structure. Is there any possibility that you would consider the ceiling or the floor
No, it's
lighter?
It's a little hard to read in the renderings,
Okay.
but the material of the underside of the dockhouse is actually a very almost white, super light
Oh, yes,
gray
so I'm glad
mesh
to hear
material.
that.
Yeah,
Okay,
so it's a light gray mesh material, and there will be lights kind of hidden behind it. And so when the lights are on, it'll sort of wash through the mesh, and we'll sort of attempt. We're working with the lighting designer to make sure that it sort of gives a soft glow to the underside of the dockhouse. So we think it'll appear less dark than maybe some of the renderings suggested. But we'll definitely keep that in mind as we further develop.
Okay, great, thank you. I mean, the project has come a very long way since we first saw it, and I really congratulate you on that. I think we all do. It's much, much better than it was originally. But, it could maybe go further. In terms of it being in a park with all the constraints that you have. And I recognize that you have a lot of them in the water.
Yes, go ahead, Ira.
Okay, I've probably spoken at every single one of these meetings. Sorry about that, Stephen. And in one way, this wouldn't have been what I would have done as an architect, but I'm not the architect here. Okay, that's not the question. The question is, what have they done? And two things is they've done a lot of effort to clear out that space underneath. The columns used to be bigger. They used to be more plentiful. That's much lighter than it started out, which is a real plus. The other thing I want to point out is this is a marina. It's an industrial facility by its very nature. So we're making it what it is, what it wants to be. And it's not going to be the boathouse restaurant in Central Park. Okay, it's not that kind of setting. We're not even in the Robert Moses Park. We're outboard of the Robert Moses Park. If you want to know what the waterfront is about, walk down a little bit to 72nd Street and you can see the historic waterfront. This is actually what might have been in the historic waterfront. So, like Barbara said, it's come a long, long way. I think where we started, certainly I wasn't happy. I'm a lot more relieved at this point. And I think it's appropriate that it be somewhat industrial. The other thing you have to realize too is a lot of the roof of this building is actually seen from the rotunda, from the hillsides that go towards the rotunda. It's not just seen from the promenade. And I think the pictures that are the most interesting that you guys showed and the more convincing ones were actually from the water side rather than the park side. Because when you saw it from the water side, you went, yeah, this is a marina. When you're on the park side, but this isn't a park. Yeah, well, surprise, it is. It's a marina. So, I think like I think everybody said, it's come a long, long way. And you know what? They still got 6 months to work on it some more because they got to get these things into construction drawings. Am I right? Yeah, so this is not the end result. And some of the people at this table will neuroticize about some of these details ad infinitum, much to the chagrin of Stephen, who wants to get this house bid.
Thank you.
So, give them a chance. It does drive you crazy. They're architects. I know about these people. I've been one, I managed one. I managed a lot. So anyway, good luck with PDC.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's it.
Anybody else in the room? With a question, comment? Anybody on the Zoom?
Oh, we have one question also from the public. It's really more of a suggestion, which is to consider some kind of greenery under the dockhouse. Consider that in the future too, to kind of brighten up the space.
Yeah. You don't have to answer that right now.
Okay.
But just bring it in.
Yeah.
Recommendation.
It sounds like a suggestion thing to consider. It doesn't look like we have any additional questions online. This presentation doesn't require a resolution. I just wanted to confirm something. During the preliminary PDC approval, were the plans presented to them the same plans as today, or were they different in any capacity? The ones in December? The plans in December?
Yeah, it
Very
was
close.
very, very close.
Okay.
The only change really we made from the initial PDC was the railings on the stair. And so the simplification of the stairs was part of the PDC comments. So we already picked those up and have been working with their comments. So they were overwhelmingly positive, and that was really their only suggestion, was to kind of further simplify the railings.
Is DOT still here? Is who?
DOT.
DOT still on? No. I think that was it.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, I just wanted to make a closing remark that one thing we can all agree on is that this is a project that not everybody will agree on in our community. And that's
We
what
can
we've
agree on
seen right from the beginning, but as multiple people have said, the project has come a long way. And as the community board, we have to commend the EDC and DPR and everybody for actually listening to the feedback and acting on it. That's what they've done throughout. This is an incredible opportunity for our community to interact with the water in a way that it hasn't done in the past in this area of New York City. So me too, I do want to give them the best possible chance to get this closer and closer to going out to bid. And I think if you could just repeat the email that you have out there for the public to send you comments directly. Do you have that email?
I'm gonna pull it up. I don't know it. Don't have it memorized, but I will pull it up in just one moment.
Yeah, so that we normally
we have boat basin. It's Nate. Yeah, we have boat basin at parks.nyc.gov.
Yeah, so I would encourage people to send their comments in directly also. And we are here for you anytime you want to come back. When are you coming back?
I think now, we have the next step coming up with PDC, so we'll let you know as we're coming along in that process. I think it's kind of up to you all. We'll keep you updated on our progress. We're kind of transitioning from this finishing up design, which is much more collaborative, to I think more of a reporting phase as we go into permitting and approvals and gearing up to construction. So we can talk about that. I think we're always happy to come back and report. We'll certainly, in the interim, keep you all updated so you can share that information with the board.
Yeah. We wanted to thank you for being so patient and presenting this late in the evening. We really appreciate it, especially coming in person. That's always really key for the community boards. We really, really appreciate that too. So good luck with the PDC and congratulations on where you guys are on your design. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Any old business? Okay, great.
Move to adjourn?
Yeah.
Yes.
Here. It's not even 9 o'clock.
I don't know.